Centum was established in 1967. So this year we are 48 years old, and it was established as a listed investment company. And the purpose was to create a vehicle that would mobilize capital from, at the time, mainly Kenyan citizens to invest in the country. It has since grown to be a company with 38,000 shareholders. We are listed both on the Nairobi and Uganda Securities Exchange. We are the largest public quoted investment company with a market capitalization of about $450 million. We have total assets in excess of $1.3 billion, and we invest across a range of sectors, but really the sectors that are very critical to the growth of the economy. One, give investors access to inaccessible investment opportunities, and that's what you're doing by creating various investment opportunities. The fact that we are listed and the fact that we have opportunities of scale, investment grade opportunities of scale, that investors not just in Kenya but also across the region and across the globe can participate in. Our second focus is to create what we call high quality investment in companies, high quality companies and high quality enterprises, and that's what we've done across a range of sectors, from bottling to motor vehicle manufacturing to what you're doing in financial services, real estate and infrastructure. We've had an exceptional track record over the last 5.5, 6 years. On dollar, we've generated 30% annualized return. Centum is has been the best performing listed stock in Kenya for the last 2.5 years. An investor who invested $1 in on April 1, 2009, by this year they would have made $7, so that's a 7 times return. So excellent return to investors. And also a lot of our investment companies and the portfolio companies have done exceptionally well. We've had several. I would say some of the major milestones is our involvement in projects that are really going to catalyze the development of this country, moving from it's not just about making investments, it's about making investments of scale that have significant developmental impact besides the investment impact. And an example of those kinds of projects that we've been involved in include Two Rivers, which is a project within our real estate development, where we are literally building a new city, and that is going to be open in October of this year. And we've been able to attract various international brands to come and set up offices there. Our power projects, in aggregate, we are developing in excess of 1,100 megawatts of power. That's going to be about a third of the power generation capability of this country when we are done. So again, these are projects of scale. On asset management, we are the second largest asset manager in the country in terms of managing pension fund capital. We manage in excess of $1.2 billion. So Centum, we've transitioned from being just a portfolio manager to being a developer of investment grade enterprises that have significant catalytic impact across the economy. We are currently involved in 2 projects of scale. One is the Lamu coal power project, which is a 980 megawatt power project. It is baseload power. It's going to be one of the cheapest sources of power into the economy. And the second one is the Akira geothermal power project. And the first phase is 70 megawatts. It's going to be another 70 megawatts coming on stream. In both of these projects, we are a sponsor of the projects. I think the question is, why are we involved? Why power, and why are we involved in these 2 projects? One, besides the ability to generate long-term returns in hard currency, we see an opportunity to also play a role in unlocking one of the biggest bottlenecks that we've had in our development, which is access to affordable power at scale. Because you cannot develop industry if you don't have affordable power at scale. So both the geothermal and the Lamu coal power project, they're going to be baseload power. They're going to be baseload sources of power, but besides that, they're significantly cheaper than the current sources of power, and I believe they'll position the country to be a lot more competitive, particularly our industry. Energy is one of the 7 areas we are focusing on investing. If you look at the current per capita installed generation capacity of power in East Africa vis-a-vis the rest of the world, we are probably in the bottom 20 countries. What that tells us that there's a lot of, there's requirement for more power, and that creates investment opportunities. And those are the investment opportunities we've chosen to look at. Not just waiting for the opportunity to be developed, but to come in at the very early stage and create an investment grade opportunity that can then, once developed, and at a point when it's once it's a bankable project, be able to attract capital from locally and from overseas. We are currently targeting 7 sectors, and these are the sectors that we consider to be most critical to the development of the economy, particularly the stage of our development. And besides power, we are also involved in real estate and infrastructure. They say half of African cities are not yet built, and that's exactly what we're doing. Building new cities, and that is providing the infrastructure, providing the top structures, providing the development guidelines so that you can have a well-governed city. So we're involved in that, and off that you then have opportunities to create various asset-backed securities. We're involved in financial services, which is a critical sector. Within financial services, we recently made an acquisition in a bank. We're involved in insurance, we're involved in microfinance, we're involved in asset management and insurance brokerage. We're also involved in fast-moving consumer goods, not just the distribution, but also the manufacturing and value addition. One of our largest investments is in Coca-Cola, where we're one of the largest investors in Coca-Cola bottling facilities in this country. Besides that, we're also involved in alcoholic beverages. We are also looking to get into agriculture. Agriculture for a long time in Africa has been production of cash crops, primarily for export. There's not been enough focus in terms of capital and expertise into production of commercial production of food crops and value addition of the same for the domestic market, and that's an area that we are getting into. We're also getting into education and into healthcare as well. And the other sector that we're looking to get into is ICT. So ICT being information and communication, because one of the biggest advantages we have as a country in Kenya is the quality of the population and the quality of the innovations, and that's what we want to play a role in, is to be able to support those kinds of innovations in our country. So I would say those are the basic sectors that we believe will play a critical role in the development of the economy. Let me start from where we've come from. When we developed our strategy in 5-year strategy in 2009, we had about 6 billion shillings of total assets under management. Today that number is close to $1.5 billion. So we've had significant growth. Our target is that in the next 5 years, that is by 2018, we should have at least $8 to $9 billion of assets under management. And we're going to do that through the development of investment grade opportunities of scale, create assets, which then those assets we're then able to create products, investment products that investors can then come and invest in. An example is what you're doing in power. Power gives you an opportunity to have a long-term revenue stream in dollars, which is backed by government letter of support, and where the risk is very low. And that presents us with an opportunity to create asset-backed securities that can then be that pension funds can invest in, insurance companies can invest in, individual investors can invest in, international investors seeking yield and exposure to Africa infrastructure risk can then invest in. And that's a primary role that we want to play in, and we see significant scope to play in that role. investment is a function of savings. Savings are a function of incomes. So as a country, our savings rate is below, it's growing, but it's below the current global average, and consequently the investment is currently below the current global average. However, if one looks at the trend over the last 10 years, there's been significant increase in the scale of investment. The market capitalization at the Nairobi Securities Exchange has increased considerably. The quantum of foreign direct investment into this country has increased considerably. What I ever see is that given that we are still below the global average, I still see significantly greater volume for growth. And that is particularly where you are talking about projects of scale. There's still a lot of capital that is interested in participating and investing in East Africa and Kenya specifically. But I believe where the constraint is availability of bankable opportunities that are investment ready. And that's what we are playing a role in participating, is not in waiting for others to develop those opportunities, but being an institutional sponsor of investment grade opportunities of scale. There's also significant appetite even from local investors, retail and institutional, who are seeking high quality investment opportunities. I actually believe that the potential growth for Kenya specifically is a lot greater than the 5%. Our growth should be anywhere to the tune of should be double-digit growth, and that is if you look at the potential of the economy vis-a-vis the performance. There have been several bottlenecks to the growth of our economy, which are being progressively addressed, and which I believe will have significant impact in coming years. Some of those bottlenecks are the quality of our infrastructure. Transport infrastructure has been a major challenge, and there are projects addressing that. Currently, there are major projects around expansion of the port of Mombasa. There is a project on the standard gauge railway line, which will provide a high-speed rail network between the port of Mombasa and Nairobi. There are significant projects taking place on power, expanding the generation capacity and reducing the cost of power. These projects will have a significant impact in the ability of the country to produce goods and services competitively. Besides that, there's been a lot of advances in entrenching the rule of law in this country, and also advances in terms of administrative support, particularly from the public sector players. There's been significant public sector reform, and at one of the meetings that I attended late last year between captains of industry and the head of state, the issue of the competitiveness of the country was discussed at length at a very high level. And so issues around land reform, around ease of how long it takes to resolve disputes, licensing, all those issues have been addressed so that you can make this country a better investment destination. There are several issues to successful investment in Africa. I think one, the kind of partnerships and the quality of the local partner is critical. My experience about, and I've been investing for the last 15 years, is that you'll almost do well in any sector because the level of competition is a lot lower than the rest of the world, and the current penetration of various goods and services is low. The differential is around execution, and therefore the quality of your local investment partner, the quality of your management team on the ground is perhaps what is the single biggest factor that sort of makes or breaks an investment. I was very humbled by the award that I recently received as Africa Business Leader of the Year. I believe it was reflective also of a younger generation of leadership. But for me also what was important is about a change in the narrative of Africa. Because for a long time, the story of Africa has been the story of aid, the story of assistance. But now we are getting into the age of business and the age of enterprise, and the recognition that there's actually high quality private sector leadership that exists on the continent. My advice is, and what I really say to to other captains of industry and other business people and other aspiring entrepreneurs is that there's significant opportunity in Africa. And for those of us who are fortunate enough to be in a position where we can make a difference, it not only makes business sense, but I think it's an obligation upon us to help create opportunities for many of our brothers and sisters who do not have formal employment opportunities or even informal employment opportunities. And for me, my role here is actually a calling. It's not just about the returns we are making. The returns we are making are important in the sense that we're giving a fair return to our investors, but we're also helping rewrite the story of Africa, that there are actually good returns to be made by investing on the continent. But what is for me more satisfying is the opportunities that we're able to create for the people we employ directly, but also for the businesses that then connect with the businesses that we are developing. And I believe this generation has a significant responsibility to play a role in changing the destiny of this continent.